Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sales Practitioner video series with Mailshake. My name is Sujan Patel. I've got Jack Reamer here. I'm really pumped to talk to you about personalization today. Jack is from emails.sell.com. Jack, welcome.
Thanks, Sujan. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be on this video series with you. Let's talk about personalization.
Awesome. Well, before we do that, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about you and your background?
Yeah, so I run emails@sell.com. It's basically a cold email agency that generates B2B leads. So companies come to us to try and rustle up some new customers, and we're kind of a one-trick pony here. We just use cold email, and we offer a couple of services, but basically it's either the done for you, or if you just need help with some smaller stuff like strategy or email copy or personalization that we'll get into, we sort of just try and make life a little bit better for cold emailers out there.
Awesome. So why should you even bother with personalization? Like, what's the point of it? Super easy one. I mean, super simple.
Yeah, it is, but to double your reply rate. And I didn't just grab that number out of thin air. SalesLoft and HubSpot have some really good data, some reports that you can Google for. But the short of it is SalesLoft found, after analyzing tens of thousands of emails, that you're going to get about 112% lift just by adding personalization. And I mean, that's kind of it. Like if you haven't tried personalization yet and you've heard this part of the interview, just, I don't know, push pause and start trying it out right now.
Yeah, just don't watch the rest of it. Go test it out. That's a good point. I mean, action, right?
I mean, it's to me, it's going to be mandatory practice for cold emailers starting, I don't know, 6 months ago, if you really want to stand out. And I mean, your competitors are sending cold emails, so it's a matter of, if you want to win your prospects' attention, this is sort of essential today. Also, there's a couple side benefits. One of them, very important, being it's great for deliverability, because spam filters like to see variety. If we're using the same template over and over and over again, our open rates are going to drop. So mixing things up with personalization is just, it's good for getting replies and good for inboxing.
Love it. I was just going to add that. I was like, yeah, deliverability, huge, right? Send the same email over and over and over again. Guess what? The best performing email eventually just doesn't perform. It's a sliding scale down as you get up in volume.
Yeah.
We see that time and time again. Is there ever a time you should not personalize?
There is, and it sounds weird, but you're going to definitely want to not personalize if you're one of those cold emailers who is not, let's say, very careful about who you reach out to. And I'm talking about if you send to risky emails or if they're unverified. The reason being, if that email ends up bouncing and there's no prospect on the other end of that inbox, you've just wasted a lot of time. And personalization, I think the reason it's working so well is because, unlike basically every other aspect of cold email, you can't just click a few things and off you go. You know, today prospects and sales data, it's getting very cheap. You know, it's quite easy to get a giant list, but adding this personalization is definitely not worth it if there's a chance of that prospect is going to bounce. So small caveat, but big believer of sending only to valid emails for many reasons, and not wasting your time with personalization is one of them.
Love it. Totally agree. I think it's about efficiency, your time, as well as kind of your efforts, right? You spend too much time personalizing and you don't spend enough time filtering through your list. Well, then you're spending the right time in the wrong areas. And for everyone listening, I don't see any reason to not at least run an email verification on your list. It is dirt cheap. Like we own a company, Vola Norbert, but like there are hundreds of companies and it's like less than a penny to go do it.
No
spend
excuses.
The $15. Yeah, spend the $15 on your few thousand people and stop emailing those bounces, right? Like immediately deliverability improvement. But all right, this is about personalization. So I guess sure. I'm excited. You told me personalization is gonna double my reply rate, but where do I start? Like what should I personalize?
You should start by personalizing that intro sentence in your cold email. Reason being, it's actually really easy just to add a merge tag in the beginning of your email. You're not really going to have to change the rest of the body of the template, which is great. And also, and this is the main reason, studies are finding that the preview text is a better indication of your open rate than the subject line right now. Now, some people are saying it's because we've got this subject line blindness because we've been burned by cold emailers and spammers who are putting misleading subject lines, or we've gotten enough of the quick question kind of subject line that we're just looking to the preview text to see if it's worth our time to open this message. And if you've got a personalized first sentence, so right after the name, you go into something that no other salesperson or SDR is mentioning to this prospect, it's much more effective to get their attention and to earn that open. Also,
Absolutely.
I mean, from a psychological perspective, if you start off the email with something that shows that you've done the legwork, there's a bit of reciprocity going on, especially if it's like a compliment. I mean, we're using liking and reciprocity, some really powerful sales psychology tactics in order to get that reply. So a lot of things, just keep it simple, work on, and if you're just getting into personalization, start with that custom intro sentence.
Love it.
Oh,
Really simple.
really simple. And actually, I've got one more thing to say on this. The Sales Loft study that I mentioned in the beginning of our conversation, it found that personalization has diminishing returns. So if we personalize a little bit, we're getting a big lift. But then if we, let's say, decide to write custom templates for every one of our prospect, there's diminishing returns for that extra effort. So this is good news for you and I and every cold emailer who's listening, because we don't have to customize everything for each prospect. That would be a crazy amount of work. And also it's just not showing that it's worth it. So they said the sweet spot lies between 20 and 50% of that cold email being personalized. So grain of salt I take from this, if your cold email is about 4 or 5 sentences, dropping in one custom sentence should get you in that sweet spot of personalization, and 2x your reply rate if your cold emails are sort of following the trend of data here.
Love it. Makes sense. And usually data doesn't lie, right? I mean, if these are studies done, and even if you don't get 2x, 1.5x is something I'll take too.
Exactly. I mean, just think about what the value of a new customer is for your business. I mean, it's just, to me, sounding more and more of the obvious choice today to personalize, because it's just going to help you take up that much market share. And, you know, it's sort of a tool that every cold emailer has in their belt. It's just, let's not be lazy and actually make it happen, you know?
Love it. So what's the process look like? When you're going to personalize, I know you talked about commonalities or compliments go a long way. Like, but where do you go? How do you do it?
I have sort of this stupid acronym that I keep in my head as my team and I are doing personalization. It's CCQ, and that's commonalities, compliments, questions. So these are like, I don't know, a couple of buckets that you can look for things to pull from each prospect in order to create that custom intro sentence. So let's go through it really quick. First of all, the most powerful custom or personalization that you can add in a cold email is a commonality. It's harder to get these facts that you can show your prospect that you guys share some things in common. But if you can, then you've separated yourself from the pack of prospects, or excuse me, from the pack of salespeople who are trying for this prospect's attention, right? So commonalities would be, you live in the same city. You both have a passion for mountain biking. You worked for the same company at one point, and you know people in common. This one's a big one that I encourage everyone to try out. If you're on Sales Navigator, You could pull up the prospect, and if you know some of the same people, it will show you. One of the side benefits here of expanding your network is you'll be able to use more and more people to help. Even if you can just mention, hey, I see we both know XYZ, that's a commonality that actually goes a long way. So pull up the prospect and sales nav. If you've got people that are both in your networks, that's an easy one. Question of how effective is it if you're dealing with someone, probably like yourself, Sujin, who has a huge network on LinkedIn. You don't know most of those connections, so a lot of them are meaningless. So let's take it a step further. When it shows you people you have shared in common, go ahead and click that little box, and it will expand to show you the, let's say, the degree of their connection. So did they share work experience? Are they in the same LinkedIn group? And this stuff matters. So if I find someone that we have in common that is a colleague or someone they used to work with, I'm going to mention that every time. You know, that's really helpful, and it works. But for the prospects that you don't have this benefit, why don't you go ahead and look for compliments? Start by checking out their about section on their LinkedIn profile. A third of prospects will have a nicely written out about page. And if they say anything like this is what you're looking for. I'm passionate about, or at my company, we believe that, or I started here and, you know, now this is what I'm, they're basically telling you what they're proud of. And grab that and compliment them on their progress, on what they've done, on a product they've released. They're basically telling you things that they want the world to know. So by complimenting on one of those, again, that's sort of a gimme for us cold emailers. It's firepower we can use to get this conversation going. And last but not least, you can ask questions about something specific. I mean, if there's one takeaway here, if you get specific about something that this prospect is excited about or working on, specific, you're going to do personalization well. It's the people that are doing very generic, works for most of the prospects kind of sentences that aren't really going to make an impact. So a bit of a ramble there, but hopefully that was helpful. CCQ, commonalities, compliments, questions.
Love it. Yeah, super simple. I mean, CCQ, not a very sexy acronym, but that's the one I'm going to remember. It is very, very, very important. Like, that question is just a great engagement, engaging comment, right? It's like, oh, like, boom, now you have a reply that's just, it's not as hard. It's not high friction. It's a little lower. All right, moving on. So here's one. What happens when people, what do you do when prospects you're selling to aren't online or aren't active online? I feel like this is happening, selling to construction workers, right? Or like construction equipment, like, you know, they're not online often.
Right. So don't even try to become this online Sherlock Holmes. It can backfire on you if you dig too deep and you just come up with something that prospect isn't comfortable with you knowing. I'll spare you some examples, but the takeaway is if somebody isn't active on social, so you go to the LinkedIn page and there's nothing, maybe a school they attended, a job title, and that's it. I go to the contact info dropdown, and sometimes you'll get a link to a Twitter account. That's helpful. Jump right there, you'll find something. Rarely you'll get a personal blog, but those are one of my favorite sources to figure out what makes this prospect tick. But a lot of times there's nothing there. It's just the link to the, Sales Nav account, and you're left with nothing for that prospect. So in these cases, it's not over by a long shot. All you have to do is grab that prospect's domain of their company. And you already have that because you have their work email address, right? So you go to their website and you find the about page. I promise you it's going to have either /about or /about-us or /our-story. There's very, very few websites out there that don't have some kind of an about or a media or a press or our story page. And start there. Again, you're looking for commonalities, compliments, and questions. I'm sure in this about page, this is where usually, if it's a small construction type company, typically the copy has some, let's say, our team, and it has a little snippet about a couple people there, or their mission, or the founded date. I mean, there's so many things on the about kind of content page of a business website that you will be able to grab and use for your personalization. So no
Love it.
excuse, really. You know, everybody on your list should be able to get some nice personal note.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's an easy, like, you don't, it's so obvious you don't think about it. People think, I need to go personalize to the individual level. Does that person like snowboarding or skiing? But sometimes you can go to the company and talk about the fact that they did blah, blah, blah with the city council, and
Yeah,
boom, that's personalization still
exactly.
at
And
the
look,
company level.
here's the big question is, this works today, but in 12 months from now, when every cold emailer says, yeah, personalization, I'm doing it too, will that company-wide level of personalization be able to break through the noise and get your prospects' attention? I don't know. I'm not sure if that's going to become the new normal, and we'll have to find another advantage. I'm thinking, 5 years out from here, we'll be selling more to our networks as opposed to cold contacts. So where cold email's heading is another conversation. But for right now, yeah, this kind of personalization, even on a company level, is working quite well.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. With everything in marketing and sales, the more it's successful, the bar keeps raising to do the next thing that's even harder. And, but
Exactly.
my take on this is personalization is hard, requires it requires effort, right? And effort is not something everyone's willing to do. So I think it may be 10 years out, we'll probably get people finally, it'll get played out. I can't wait till it gets played out, because it's so sad kind of to see lack of effort on these emails in that like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's 2 seconds because you can do a mail merge and plug in something personal about them that you already have.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if you have any examples of that. I'm just curious if it's like something that you already have, such as the industry they're in, or like where you got the
Yeah.
list from.
Yeah, I think when I think about this, so let's say I'm targeting marketers and I'm selling something versus I've got all these different segments I'm targeting. I know marketers have a pain point of something, right? Or if I'm targeting, let's just say marketing directors, and I know they're hiring, I can grab that, right? And so these are different things that I think are very programmatic. It might not get you to that double, but you could personalize kind of at a more macro kind of scale.
Yeah, and it does work. Like, I think this is going back to just tailoring your message to the right audience. If there's a fit, if your audience cares about what you're saying, you're going to have a stronger reply rate. And if you're doing personalization by, let's say, hyper segmenting, I think that's fine. I would still throw a test in there to see if adding a custom CCQ sentence makes that much of a difference. And look, I mean, a lot of people using cold email are going after accounts that are in the tens of thousands of dollar range, lifetime value. So it's kind of hard for me to think of a sales VP who doesn't encourage their SDRs to say, guys, it's a very good idea to get more warm leads in the door because it's potentially a huge close. So why wouldn't you use something, like you said, that takes 30 seconds? It's kind of becoming more of a no-brainer, but we'll see if there's, I don't know, maybe a diminishing return on personalization in the future. But for now, you're totally right.
Yeah, love it. All right, last question for you, Jack. So like, what are the roles and team members you need to kind of have in place to just do all the things you're saying here?
Sure. So just keep in mind, can I plug something? We do personalization as a service. So if you don't even want to screw with this, then there's options out there, right? You can also go to Upwork and build your team of VAs. That's an option too. You got to do some training, but whatever. Here's sort of what that process looks like. first, you need a copywriter to review the template. And for all intents and purposes, you can just think about personalizing the first email, especially if you're just sort of getting your feet wet in this personalization thing. Just take the first step of your cold email campaign. See where you can fit. If you just want the brain dead easy option, just throw a custom intro sentence. But also, you're probably going to want one more merge tag. And a lot of times I find that this is grabbing the type of product that they sell. So if you're wanting to mention, hey, XYZ might help you sell more, merge tag, it just feels a little bit more personal. So the first step, you need a copywriter who can say, okay, here's where we need personalization. And this could take just a couple of minutes to massage a template and say, okay, we're going to put in a custom intro sentence. And it sure would be nice to have maybe this one extra merge tag that's, let's say, specific sub-industry or an award the company won or the plural of the kind of product they're selling, you know? So typically there's 2 merge tags you're going to want to add. The next role that you need someone to help you with would be the researcher. This is the person that's going to crawl through the internet and find that CCQ thing and also whatever other merge tag that you decide, industry, whatever. But the researcher's job is not to put, in my opinion, a ready to send snippet in that CSV file. All their job is do the hardcore research and put that text in your CSV file. And the final step here, you're going to have a proofreader. So there's kind of 3 roles: copywriter, researcher, and proofreader. Proofreader's job, make sure you don't send anything with an error. I recommend they do 2 checks for you. They check the CSV file for spelling and read the whole sentence, make sure punctuation is there, and then upload that upload that CSV to whatever cold email tool you're using, and have that proofreader go through a couple of entire campaigns that are like sample views to make sure those merge tags fit as they should. A common mistake, and hopefully this is going to save you if you're listening, let's say an error or a typo in a cold email. A lot of times if you have a full, let's say, custom intro sentence, there's a tendency to have a period after the merge tag and also inside it. So just clean up punctuation, but really that's kind of the team you have in place. And to put it all together, Sujin, you basically just hand that list to the copywriter. He's going to say, okay, this is the merge tags we need, add it to the spreadsheet. Researcher goes, adds the appropriate text, and then finally proofreader, make sure everything looks nice, and your prospects are going to get a crisp email that's written for them.
Love it. Simple, sounds simple-ish. I'd prefer just to hire your company, right? You want success. I'm sure you would too. Well, Jack, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. Where again people can go? Where can people go to find out more and or hire you?
Yeah, so go to emails.sell.com and you can click on our personalization service or our done for you or email writing, whatever you need to make your life better as a cold emailer. That's the best place. And also, if you're just looking for general tips, I love my email list. So I'm always like throwing out some hopefully helpful ideas, strategy, and tools that you can check out. So start there.
Love it, Jack. Thank you. I'm going to forever remember CCQ. Compliments, commonalities, questions, right? Or did I get the C's reversed?
Yeah, usually I value the commonalities first, but
Okay.
it's CCQ, you know, like it's
go for it.
It's going to be better than what you're sending out today if you haven't tried personalization. So CCQ, everybody.
Love it. Thanks again, Jack.
Hey, it's a pleasure.